So do you have an environment that's set up for your nurture? Or do you have an environment that will scorch all the greatness out of you? Do you have an environment that is set up to make sure you have the moisture and people are pouring into you and encouraging you like you need to? Or do you feel like you're walking through a desert, parched and dehydrated? What's up? How you doing? Welcome back to A Moment of Clarity with yours truly, Aaron Thomason. I'm super excited that you're with me, but did you give this to 3 people and let me work for you? Have you told somebody else that, hey, you need to subscribe and tune in because it's good, we're getting better together? All right. Now remember, here's where we are. I want us to talk about this. Clarity breeds confidence. And we want to be clear on 3 questions: who you are, where you are in your life, and ultimately where you want to go. And so understanding that who we are, when we are clear on who we are, now we have to understand where currently are we in our lives, right? We can talk about the stage that we are in our life. Maybe we're a little bit older, maybe we're a little younger, kids have left the house. That's good. But also where we are in our lives, the environment actually determines a lot of who shows up. If you and your authentic nature show up. So let's talk about the environment, right? Your environment. A lot of us, like Tupac talked about, is that, hey, we've been roses that have grown from the concrete. Yeah, something beautiful. Coming out of something very hard, very callous. Probably, if I got a chance to hear all your stories, there's a lot of traumatic natures and things that have happened. But yet through your grit, your perseverance, by God's grace, you continue to make it. Whether you had a great environment at home, but you had to traverse some crazy things at school in your neighborhood, right? There is something in your story that wasn't conducive all the time for growth, and you made it anyway. So what I want us to start thinking through is that just because we had to, or we know the struggle to be normal, that ain't where we got to be living. Yeah, that ain't where we got to be. Yep, I said it just like that and meant it. Why do I say it that way? It's because what got you to this point are skills, experiences, and principles that will help you if you use the principles to get you to the next point. But I want to help you make it a little bit easier on yourself. Let's look at our environments. Question: are they conducive for growth? Is your current environment conducive for your growth? Does it allow for you to show up as your best self? Does it? If your current environment doesn't allow for you to show up as your best self, we got to ask the question, so why do we keep doing it? Why are we in that relationship? Why do we keep going to that job? Why do we keep living in that neighborhood? Why do we go to that church, right? There's a bunch of environments that might not be conducive to you being yourself. Because as long as you don't show up with your gifting and your uniqueness consistently, you are not allowing for the greatness that's in you, that the DNA of the creator that put into you to actually be what it's supposed to be, which is on full display for his glory. When you decide to play small, you're saying, hey, God, you gave me too much. I'm just going to give him a little bit of this and I'm going to bail out. But sometimes why that happens is because of our environment. That's our environment. We got to look at it. If the environment is conducive for growth, let's think about this in the greenhouse, right? For a greenhouse usually is a facility that is set up, especially where I'm from in Michigan, is usually set up in cold weather places, or it could be in really hot places, that there's a controlled environment on the inside that allows for produce and agriculture and flowers and things to be able to grow in the midst of an adverse environment outside of the greenhouse. So do you have an environment that's set up for your nurture? Or do you have an environment that will scorch all the greatness out of you? Do you have an environment that is set up to make sure you have the moisture and people are pouring into you and encouraging you like you need to? Or do you feel like you're walking through a desert, parched and dehydrated? We got to think through that, right? And if we're in those spaces and places, there's no judgment if you're in an environment that's not your greenhouse, that's not nurturing, that doesn't have the right environment. I'm not asking you that question for that. And I'm not asking you to come to the conclusion for you to condemn yourself. I'm asking you the question for you to start thinking through what's more important to me right now at this phase of my life. Do I want to be in a place where I can grow and be myself so I can truly let my gift make room for me? Or do I still want to be in an environment that I believe that what I get from the environment is greater than me being myself, than me being my authentic self, for me being ultimately who I want to be? That's what I want us to ask. And when you ask yourself that question, two things you're going to come to conclusion. It's only one or two ways. Yes, this is conducive for my growth. No, it isn't. So if it's conducive for your growth, hey, how about we continue to blossom and bloom where we're planted? Stay there. Steward that moment. Bless the people around you. Bless the things that are around you to allow for you to bloom, spruce, right? All those things to be able to blossom into the beauty of the individual that you are. But if the environment is not conducive for your growth, then you got to be clear on why you still keep doing it. And maybe you need to make a decision to go. Yep, to leave it. Because if it's good for your growth, you stay. That's just simple. Because you're going to continue to be who God created you to be. But if it's not who you are, and I know this is going to be easier said than done, then maybe you need to leave. And maybe the reason why you haven't left is why you're still there. And so then let's work on being able to get rid of those obstacles for you so we can clear up the path so you can be confident in saying, I want to be in an environment that's more conducive for me to be my authentic self. I really want my gift to make room for me, and I got to show up more consistently in that gift. But you got to be in the right environment. Every plant, every individual, if you look at people that have gone through things through greatness, there are moments on their journey where they had to find an environment that was conducive for their growth, that allowed for them to go incremental changes to ultimately take off. I believe there's some of you all right now that are on the edge of taking off, but you might have to switch your environment. Or guess what? You actually might have to be patient and just continue to bloom where you're planted because you're right where you need to be to start taking off. I'm excited. I'm excited about us getting that clarity to breed the confidence to really understand, are we in the right environments? Because the things that are here will ultimately be the things that we live out in our lives. Our gifts will actually show up and they will actually make room for us. That's what I'm excited about. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to do that. I want you to take the inventory again and ask yourself the question, is it time for me to stay or is it time for me to go? Am I at a place where I'm blooming, where I've been planted? Or do I need to find a greenhouse, an environment that's conducive for my uniqueness, my skill set that allows for me to bloom, for my gift to make room for me in places that I have not even begun to imagine in my mind? That's what I want you to do this week. And I want you to also give this to 3 people this week and let them understand and hear what we've been talking about, what we've been discussing, what we're going through. And for those that say, hey, Aaron, I need some help getting some clarity on that, I tell you all the time, hit me on my DMs, hit me on my phone, but you can also go to the link that's in this caption, book an initial consultation. Let us sit down and let's be intentional and talk through understanding your uniqueness, the environment, and see where we can start creating more clarity to create more confidence for you to live in the environments that you need to, because you see it here, you feel it here. Now it's time for it to be reality out here. Thank you so much for jumping on board again, A Moment of Clarity. I'm Aaron Thomason. I know you're already going to share it. I already giving you instruction of what we want to do this week, but here's what I want you to keep in mind as we go forward this week. Just because you started out to get better doesn't mean that you weren't already good. So until next time, I'll see you then.